Bolji was an unfortunate prince who was born deaf, dumb, and with absolutely no strength at all. After his mother died, his father remarried and had a younger, smarter son called Daida, who hoped to steal the throne. However, Bolji remained blissfully unaware that his life would soon be in danger. One day, he came across a member of the Shadow Clan named Kage, who robbed him of everything he had on him, making him the laughingstock of the town. This continued for days, causing Queen Hiling to tell him he was not fit to be a king. However, Bolji was not upset at Kage because he finally had someone to talk to. Kage thought he was surely an idiot, so he followed Bolji home and discovered how miserable his situation really was. While training with his swordmaster, Domas, Daida had shown up and challenged him. Surprisingly, Bolji had the upper hand and dodged expertly, but Domas told him that was not the swordsmanship of a king. Bolji stopped dodging and Daida beat him to a pulp till the king's hand, Appease, had to stop the fight. That night, Kage went to Bolji's side while he wept and promised to always be in his corner no matter what. After that, Kage tried to leave the castle but was caught by Bebin, who thought he was an assassin. The next morning, King Bolse was announced dead along with his wish for Bolji to be king. However, the queen and the king's men conspired to override his choice and crowned Daida as the new king. Bolji was devastated and sought out his only friend, but Bebin told him that he had left on a long journey without him. Bolji decided to do the same and asked the queen, but when she wouldn't let him, he tried to escape through the window and ended up falling. The queen rushed to his side and managed to heal him, remembering how she had grown fond of him in the past, even healing a pet snake for him. She finally allowed him to go on his journey, entrusting him to Domas and Hokuro. The three wandered through the woods till they came to a stop to eat. But two knives came out of nowhere, knocking Bolji's meat to some nearby foxes that were found dead the next day. They decided to visit a nearby town with a hole called the Gates of Hell, but when Domas took Bolji to check it out, he pushed him in and left him for dead. Turns out Daida had ordered Domas to eliminate his brother to get on his good side. However, Bolji had survived the fall thanks to Kage, who had been in his bag protecting him this whole time, as ordered by Bebin. Kage says there's someone in the underworld that can train him to be the strongest man, so they head down below. Meanwhile, Daida consulted with his magic mirror on how to be the strongest king, so he took him to the depths of the castle where she offered him a potion made out of his father's corpse. Daida tried to refuse, but the mirror revealed herself as Miranjo and commanded Appease to knock him out and feed him the potion anyway. Back in the underworld, Bolji and Kage met with the king, named Desha, and asked him to train Bolji into a strong man. However, when the king had his captain spar with Bolji, they realized that though he was good at dodging, he lacked physical strength to attack and was hopeless. Bolji left feeling devastated again, but the captain approached them and said the one they're looking for is the king's brother Despa, and directed them to his place. Kage told Despa about their mission, but Despa said he didn't work for free, so Kage gave up his life savings to buy the pretty man. Afterward, he took them inside and did a reading on Bolji, confirming he would never be able to get physically stronger. However, Despa said there are different kinds of strengths. He took Bolji to a room full of weapons, and after he had picked a suitable one, the training began. Days went by and Bolji worked till he was bruised, but Kage was never allowed inside and only saw Bolji standing in front of a large boulder. Meanwhile, Despa finally woke up, but it was actually King Bolse who admitted to sacrificing yet another one of his children. Years ago, King Bolse had made a deal with the demon to become the strongest king by stealing all of Bolji's strength, which explains why Bolji ended up a tweaked shrimp. Ironically, when King Bolse asked the magic mirror who was now the strongest, it was a picture of Bolji that appeared. However, Miranjo suggested they continue their plans and assassinate Queen Hiling next. Daida himself told Hiling that he was actually Bolse and not their son, but it still didn't stop Miranjo from sending hellhounds to attack. That night, the queen's bodyguard, Dorshe, managed to fight 3 hellhounds and win, though he was on the verge of death. When he woke up, Hiling had healed him and determined to ask Bolse what had happened to her son. The whole time, Daida had been wandering around in the darkness, all alone. But when Hiling confronted Bolse, he heard her voice and began calling out for help. Hiling heard him and realized it was coming from within his body, which meant there was no way to get him out without harming him. Dorshe asked Bolse what the hell was going on, but the king said he wasn't entirely sure himself. He warned him to get Hiling to safety. Meanwhile, Bolji finally completed his training, so they all went out to celebrate. However, a group of thugs picked a fight with them, and Bolji demonstrated the fruits of his training by taking them down with one strike. Despa explained that his sword was perfect for attacking nerves and pressure points, and even finding the weakest bonds to break through large objects. This was a relief, so Bolji and Kage thanked him and went on their way. But Kage told Bolji that his kingdom might be in trouble and decided to head back. Meanwhile, Daida was still sitting in agonizing darkness when he noticed a little girl appear. When he tried to check on her, he noticed she didn't have a face and learned about how her village betrayed her. Daida had pity on her and decided to protect her while they waited. Back in the underworld, King Desha discovered that some prisoners had escaped to Bolse Kingdom, especially the most dangerous of all, Oken. He immediately commanded his knights to prepare to invade Bolse and bring him back. Meanwhile, Queen Hiling prepares to storm the castle with Dorche and some other men, till the castle guards inform them that the king has been captured by some mysterious bandits. Back in the underworld, a captain stops at Despa's house to inform Bolji of their mission, so Bolji and Kage join them, expecting Despa to be close behind. Back in the castle, Bolse is led away, while one of the bandits named Kingbo knocks Oken off the throne and declares himself king. However, Oken comes back and ends his life gruesomely, which makes him laugh with sinister joy, while Zoku takes the crown for himself. Inside, Hiling finally reaches the castle with her forces, only to be blocked by a group of hellhounds under Miranjo and Appice's command. At first, Dorche and the rest of the knights are able to hold off the hounds, but when the underworld bandits join the fight, they're completely overwhelmed. Oken attacks Hiling, but she's able to scare him off with a holy light spell. Then she rushes to heal her friends, but it's useless with the hounds closing in. Meanwhile, Oken goes on a rampage in town just as the underworld army arrives with Bolji. The captain remembers Despa's warning that Oken is Bolji's natural enemy, so he tells Bolji and Kage to head for the palace. At the palace, a giant serpent comes to Hiling's aid, reminding her it's the same one that she healed for Bolji. But Gigan soon takes it out too. Finally, Bolji arrives devastated by the scene, so he asks Hiling to heal the snake using potions from Kage. While she does, Bolji defeats Gigan, so Gigan swears his loyalty to him. At the same time, Appice makes off with the mirror, but the underworld bandits attack him and take it for themselves. Meanwhile, King Desha continues to make his way to Bolse's kingdom, but after consulting with Despa, he sends a lightning bolt to Oken, which knocks him out. Bolji and Kage decide to return the underworld creatures to where they came from, but Hiling warns Bolji that he may run into Domas, who's trying to force a redemption arc. In the depths of the castle, Desha and his men finally arrive, but Domas tries to stop them to make up for his mistakes. Desha easily overwhelms him, but before he can do any damage, Bolji shows up with Gigan and Kage. Seeing Dormas is initially too much for him, but Kage gets him to focus on the big bad. Desha wonders what the shrimp can possibly do, but Despa tells him that Bolji really is that guy now, so Desha calls off his invasion and leaves the rest to his brother, but takes Gigan with him to rejoin his army. Domas tries to apologize for being the scum of the earth, but Bolji runs off, unwilling to forgive him. Meanwhile, Oken recovers and tears off his binds, so Despa knows they're in some deep shit. Turns out Oken is actually Desha and Despa's brother, who was cursed with immortality, which is why he's so unstoppable. However, before Oken can skewer his brother, Miranjo calls him to her side. Bolji stumbles on Oken, trying to take out Zoko, so Kage encourages Bolji to show Oken who's boss. Unfortunately, Bolji soon realizes none of his attacks are effective. Meanwhile, Bepin visits Bolse in prison to ask why he's going along with Miranjo's plans, so he tells the story of how he started living with Miranjo and her mother. Their clan was betrayed, and her mom was killed, while Miranjo was stripped off her face and arms. Daida also sees the whole backstory and realizes the girl with him is Miranjo, feeling even more pity for her. Meanwhile, Despa arrives to help Bolji and signals for Despa to hit with another lightning bolt. However, Oken is able to negate and ends up stabbing Despa. Bolji tries to fend Oken off but is unable to stop him, so Kage makes the desperate decision to eat Oken. Almost immediately, Oken cuts himself out, leaving Kage in bad shape. But when Bolji tries to move, he gets stabbed too. Suddenly, Miranjo possesses one of the bodies and transports them to a place between life and death. Kage is almost all the way to join his mother, but when he remembers his friendship with Bolji, he returns and thanks Miranjo for holding him back. This does something to Miranjo, and her child form starts to glow beside Daida, then suddenly disappears. Despa and Bolji return to their human form but are still badly injured. The giant snake shows up to help, but Oken takes it out pronto. Then Bebin, Domas, Dorche, and Apis show up and take on Ulken together. But even through the power of friendship, they get thoroughly smacked around. However, Bolse makes a surprising entry and heals all their wounds. Then Ulken takes him on as his new opponent, but his sword can't even braze Bolse. Instead, Bolse clobbers him into a mass of goo, squeezes him into a ball, and chucks him in the middle of a boulder so he has no space to regenerate. Now that Ulken's nothing but a baseball, he tells everyone to choose between following him and dying. Bolgi steps forward to challenge him and everyone rallies behind him, so the long-awaited father-son fight begins. Bolgi experiences the whole fight as if he is fighting his father's real form, but no matter how much he swung his club, Bolgi dodges and weakens a piece of it till it falls apart completely. Bolse was finally defeated, and everyone was shocked. But the Giant King used his last moments to go to Miranjo's side and apologize. The truth was, since the fall of Miranjo's mom and clan, the only person she had in her life was Bolse. They went on several adventures together, and all she wanted was to fulfill any wish he had. When he said he wanted to be the strongest, she suggested the deal with the demon that would steal from Bolgi. And when he was dying, she suggested using Daida's body so he could stay with her for even longer. However, she had cut one too many deals with the devil, and he was waiting to eat her soul when she finally died. Regardless, Bolgi had to make the tough call and destroy the mirror, releasing Bolse and Miranjo's souls, while Daida returned to his body. However, the demon popped up and ate Miranjo as promised, but the captain of the underworld quickly cut off its head, hoping Despa could trade its head for a cure to Ulken's immortality. Unfortunately, Daida beat him to it and asked for Miranjo to be returned to life. Afterward, he announced that he was going to marry her since she kept him company in the dark, and this filled her with joy. With the chaos over, Daida relinquished his title of king, and everyone finally acknowledged Bolgi as king. He was happy to finally achieve his dream, and even made a fine king. But something was not quite right. After the queen saw his state, she advised him to follow his heart instead. So he gave up the throne to Daida once again, and decided to go on lots of adventures with Kage. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next video.